So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Wherever you happen to be in the world today, welcome one and all to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be taking a look at the news, having a little bit of discussion about what is going on in the world today. And if you are listening somewhere else and you'd like to join the live portion, you can find us Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube on Coffee Talk and Prepper University. That's at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. You can find me surrounded by silly cats like this one. Monkey hanging around in the office today. We'll see what he does, see if he acts up. Naturally, I do read through as many of the comments as is reasonable. So I'll go ahead and say hello to some of the people that have chosen to chime in so far. I see Helter is joining us today, as well as Dragon and Legends and Cyberjack Sr. Fluke Man is here, and Conyers is here from Athens. And Legends says, on day 10 of the recovery process of getting the dog spayed, learned a lot and have a greater appreciation for what you do with the cats. Yeah, a female, right? Yeah, the females, it takes a lot longer for the recovery, a lot longer. With Dusty, we had to keep a cone on her head for 2 weeks. Raccoon is here, as well as Country Living. And again, Monkey sitting on the desk. And we'll just, hopefully he won't steal the show too much, because he can get really, really carried away. There he goes. He's down on the floor playing with the fish. Fish that was sent to our P.O. box by one of the viewers. Chillin' Dave has joined us as we get ready to jump off here. And believe it or not, there's an actual fact check from Verify that is accurate. A fact check from Verify that is accurate. Fact checking Kamala Harris, or Kamala, or however they pronounce it, because she has been spinning a lot of yarns. She's been telling a lot of half-truths and incomplete truths, and this is one of the big ones, and I'm happy to see it fact-checked accurately, which is rare, even though it's not going to make a difference. It's not going to make a difference. So Verify says, Kamala Harris claimed that billionaires pay lower taxes rather than firefighters is misleading, because you know that's not true. That is not true. Poverty to lower middle, and even in some regards, I believe upper middle class, pays, I think the cap is like around 22%. But people who are in the really high tax bracket pay around 37%. And that's a huge difference. It says, in the final weeks before the presidential election, Vice President and Democrat presidential nominee Kamala Harris has focused much of her messaging on income inequality. And I will remind you, there has been and always will be income inequality. Okay? It's just a fact of life. As far back as history records, you can find it in the Bible, and even Yeshua, that is Jesus, said, the poor will be with you always. Harris launched a nationwide ad campaign in which she promises she will make billionaires pay their fair share. And again, millionaires and billionaires currently are paying 45% of the income tax that is collected in the United States. The topic came up in a recent interview with 60 Minutes, where Harris pointed to tax reform as a key aspect of her agenda. Quote, it's not right that teachers and nurses and firefighters are paying a higher tax rate than billionaires, she says. Is that true? The question, do teachers, nurses, and firefighters pay a higher tax rate than billionaires? And their sources are the Internal Revenue Service, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Tax Policy Center, Tax Foundation, Institute of Taxation and Economic Policy, White House Council of Economic Affairs, and ProPublica. Answer, Harris's claims are misleading, so false. It is not based on numbers from the current tax code. It is based on hypothetical formulae that seeks to account for wealth that currently goes untaxed for billionaires, allegedly. So it's a made-up hypothetical formula that this is based on. To compare how much any two people pay in federal income tax, you need to calculate their effective tax rate, which is not as simple as a set percentage that applies to all income. But we all knew this. And they give an example. It says if each time you move up a tax bracket, the tax rate on income that falls in that bracket increases. So if you earned $11,000, your tax rate would be 10%. And at 33,000, your tax rate would be 12%, and so on. So obviously, and this is again, very obvious, the more you earn, the more you pay. So millionaires and billionaires pay more in taxes than do any of us, percentage or otherwise. But they keep telling everybody, these politicians, and especially Kamala, keeps telling everybody that millionaires and billionaires aren't paying taxes, and that's a lie. That is a lie. And we read the article, I think it was a week ago, actually, from the IRS, or citing the IRS, that currently millionaires and billionaires in this country are already paying literally 45% of what is collected in taxes in this country. So yeah, I'd say they're paying their fair share. I see Brian has joined us today, as well as Tuck, who says, please like, share, and subscribe on both channels. That would be nice. And Tommy Ann wants to quote Corinthians 1:18, and I'll leave that up there for a moment so that people can take a look at it. So, I mean, it's another one of those fraudulent claims that are made, like the whole Project 2025 thing, which has nothing to do with Donald Trump, but they love throwing it out there to mislead people. And what's going to be done about it? What's going to be done about it? Who's going to do anything about it? Who's going to call her? I mean, she can be called out on it, like this article from Verify is calling her out. Is it going to stop her? Is it going to change anything? Is it going to convince anyone? I guarantee you there's a lot of people that hear those commercials and they're like, that's right, these millionaires and billionaires aren't paying any taxes. They're getting a free ride, and all my money's paying for everything. Isn't that right, Monkey? Hello, Monkey. How are you today? Yeah, you smell like fish. JJ is here, as well as D-Lo. And Chillin says, every politician barks about taxes. It's all crap. Kitty, get out of no. Get out of the teacup. Sorry, technical difficulties, people. No tea for you. Stay out of the teacup. And Fluke Man says, anyone heard in 2017, 18-year-old kid watched YouTube videos on how to drive, waited for his parents to go to sleep and take his 4-year-old sister to McDonald's drive-thru, didn't hit anything and obeyed traffic laws. I never heard that, but honestly, that doesn't sound plausible, because you can read an entire book on how to, say, fly a helicopter, but actually getting in there and doing it is another situation altogether. You can't just read something and go and do it. So that doesn't seem plausible to me. Raccoon says they get notifications for this channel, but not Prepper University, and they have the bell checked on both. Doesn't surprise me, unfortunately. And Chillin' Dave says, so many lies out of these bozos. I know, it's sickening. I'm kind of looking forward to the election being over so I don't have to hear any more of these ads. I'm so sick and tired of it. I'm tired of hearing about how she's watching out. A new one yesterday where this woman is talking about how great Kamala is because when her mother was sick, she was there for her. Like, what the hell are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about? Oh, she was there for her mother when she was sick. Okay. What does that mean? How do I know that's true? Anyways, how do I know it's true? Another fact check. because they're not liking her in the media very much anymore. I've noticed they covered for her for a long time, just like they covered for Biden. But suddenly they don't want to cover for her. Here's another fact check that throws her under the bus, and this is from Check Your Fact. Kamala Harris claims the U.S. has cut the flow of fentanyl in half. Vice President Kamala Harris claimed during an October 7th interview that Joe Biden's administration cut the flow of fentanyl into America by 50%. Verdict: unsubstantiated. Translation: false. There's no available data on the amount of fentanyl that has entered the country. Exactly. How can you claim that it was cut in half? Monkey just took my pen off the desk and left the room with it in his teeth. Thank you, Monkey. I needed that. There is no way to measure how much is actually coming into the country. Therefore, how can you claim that it's been cut in half if you have no source data at all? No source data. Brilliant. Brilliant. It says Harris has promised that if she becomes president, recreational marijuana will be fully legalized on a federal level for adults, according to The Guardian. She did say that. Former President Trump and President Biden have supported partial legalization. I think Trump wants to leave it up to individual states. He in typical conservative fashion, the idea is less big government. Listen to any of the speeches from Ronald Reagan and tell me he wasn't as a good president. A lot of people hated Reagan. It wasn't so bad in the 80s, trust me. Former President Trump and Biden have supported partial legalization, but Harris is the first to say federal legalization is a priority. And again, somehow she's convinced herself that this is going to get her the black vote. I promise you that those in the black community that schlep around all day smoking weed are not going to find their way to the polls on November 5th. Harris claimed the Biden administration has halved the flow of fentanyl into the U.S. in an October 7 interview with 60 Minutes. Quote, "We have cut the flow of fentanyl by half, but we need Congress to be able to actually fix the problem," Harris says around the 10:34 timestamp in the video. Translation: I'm not going to do shit about it, but blame Congress if nothing works. Oh, we need Congress to do something about it. Then she can say, Republicans in Congress kept us from being able to do this and that, which is the same dialogue we've been listening to, frankly, since Bill Clinton, at least. Our Republicans and Congress are keeping us from being able to save the American people. Bullshit. Fluke says true, it's fake. They've gone through a lot of trouble. McDonald's employees and police don't see anyone else. Yeah, no one saw that. There's no way that an 8-year-old went to the drive-in at McDonald's and they didn't think something was wrong and like call the police. Most likely it would have called the police. I did that once at Cumberland Farms because a guy was stupid drunk. I mean, stupid drunk. This guy could barely walk. And he says he's like pulled up in a tow truck and stumbles in there to get cigarettes or something. And he was like, "Don't worry, man. My kid's driving," because of how hammered he was. And he got into the truck, and guess what? His kid was driving. There was you could barely see the top of his head. And I did call the police because he swerved in and out. That kid couldn't drive. Country Living says, so that's why we have so many more people on fentanyl. Yeah. And Chillin' Dave says, usually the politics quiets down after an election. I don't know. The past 3.5 years has been nonstop in Vermont. Or ear vomit, it says, actually. And Chillin says, folks hated Reagan because folks had to work for their cash. Yeah, because remember, he was the workfare program. Started that in California. The workfare program, where if you are on welfare and you are able-bodied, you at least are going to volunteer somewhere. That was the whole bit with that, which I can agree with. I understand that. Don't just sit there and collect a check. Don't just sit there and collect the check. How dare you? Them's tax dollars. Those are tax dollars. Must be nice. Must be nice to just spend other people's money. But yeah, Reagan wasn't a bad president, actually, and he was very anti-government. Anti-big government, I should say. Anti-big government. He didn't like the idea of government sticking its finger in everybody's pie and sticking its nose in everything and pushing people around. Reagan was against that. He didn't like the IRS. He didn't like a lot of things. And Monkey has joined us here today. Glad you can make it as we drift into the next article while we're on it. Who wants to spend dollars on false advertising? The administration. Center Square article. Biden-Harris administration spent $900 million pushing faulty C virus messaging, according to reports. And you know what I mean by the C virus. During the pandemic, and there he is with his mask on, when everybody was bamboozled into thinking that wearing a mask was going to keep them safe from the common cold, shall we say? The equivalent of the flu. I bet you that mask came right off when the cameras weren't rolling. The Republican-led House Energy and Commerce Committee released a report Wednesday saying that the Biden-Harris administration spent nearly $1 billion promoting C virus-era messaging, much of which turned out to be untrue and misleading. The congressional report examines the $900 million spent by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services on C virus-era misleading the American people, or messaging misleading the American people. Americans cannot afford another botched government response to a future pandemic, according to the report. The report cites errors and failures in the U.S. Center for Disease Control's, quote, "we can do this" advertisements and marketing materials. I can go without ever hearing another "we can do this" commercial. We got this. We can do this. We all in the same boat. We in this together. My ass. The report said that much of the taxpayer-funded marketing included incorrect information about vaccines, the dangers to children, masks, and more, according to the report. Much of the scientific content directly featured in or alluded to in the campaign ads and other promotional material was drawn from CDC recommendations, guidance, and research, critical parts of which proved to be deeply flawed. Again, a quote from the report. For instance, the report cited the CDC telling Americans taking the C virus vaccine would prevent them from getting the C virus, which turned out to be false. If you took that thinking it was going to keep you from getting sick, you've got to be kidding me. Anyone ever take a flu shot? Anyone I've ever talked to that got a flu shot got sick afterwards. Quote, "This ultimately had a negative impact on vaccine confidence and the CDC's credibility when proven untrue." You should have your confidence shaken. You should have your confidence shaken. Honestly, who takes an untested medical fluid, shall we say, and lets a stranger inject it into you, not knowing the outcome, especially since the government allowed for these companies to have a pass on liability. So you can't even turn around and sue them. If you had a stroke or a heart attack or blood clots or anything else happen to you, brain lesions, I've been hearing all kinds of things. You have no recourse. No recourse this time around. Not that you would have had much luck anyways. Again, my wife's brother died because of a faulty vaccination. It actually left him a quadriplegic, but eventually he died sometime after, almost 10 years ago, I think. And hundreds of kids had that reaction. Hundreds. And a mysterious flood washed away the records, so it couldn't be verified. It couldn't be verified who got that particular strain of the dose. So the company never had to pay anyone. Country says the vax might have helped with symptoms, but then you don't feel as sick and then walked around spreading asymptomatically. If I have symptoms of something, I stay home. Yeah. Covering up symptoms doesn't help you. You're better off feeling it. Also, covering up symptoms slows down your body's response. So you'll be sick longer, which can cause more damage in the long run. So yeah, that the government spent nearly $1 billion on those commercials to try to convince you to get shot, which has turned out to cause a lot of damage. It's hurt a lot of people. It's hurt a lot of people in the long run. Not much we can do about it. Not much we can do about it. Follow-up. This is a follow-up story on something that we talked about a few weeks back. You might remember Arizona. I think it was Arizona, right? Where they had claimed a Democrat voting office was getting shot up. Okay. And then it turned out it was a BB gun that was being used in these so-called attacks. And nobody was actually attacked either, because it was like deep in the middle of the night and somebody was firing a BB gun at the Democrat political center in Arizona. Barely, because the window was hit like 3 or 4 times. Some of you might remember that. Well, they caught the guy, allegedly. It is not a kid. I speculated at first. That sounds like some stupid kid pranking in the middle of the night, just being a vandal, driving around or running around. I could picture a 14-year-old on a bicycle with a BB gun. Okay, that's what I pictured. But according to this, it's a guy who's in his 60s. And he continued to do this and other acts of vandalism until he got caught. And this is a weird story, and I wonder how true it is. I wonder how true this is, actually. CNN has this article: suspect in shooting of Democratic office in Arizona has over 120 guns in his home. Are they all BB guns? Let's find out. An Arizona prosecutor said the man arrested in the 3-time shooting of a Democratic National Committee office in suburban Phoenix has more than 120 guns and 250,000 rounds of ammunition in his home, leading law enforcement to believe he may have been planning a mass casualty event. Maricopa County prosecutor Neha Bhakta said at Jeffrey Michael Kelly's initial court appearance. So Jeffrey Michael Kelly, I guess, is the guy who is the suspect. On Wednesday, federal agents told her about the large seizure made after Kelly's arrest. Scopes, body armor, and silencers were also found, and a machine gun was discovered in the car he was driving. What kind of machine gun? Is it a semi-auto or a full auto? The sheer size of the cache led authorities to believe, or the cache, depending upon what side of the pond you're on, led authorities to believe, quote, this person was preparing to commit an act of mass casualty. Police said Kelly, who was 60, allegedly fired BB pellets and then gunshots at the glass front door and a window of the Arizona Democrats' field office in Tempe in the early morning hours of September 16th and October 6th. No one was inside. I would hope not, because he did it at like 2 in the morning. They better not be anybody in there. And I had read the report about him using using a BB gun, but I did not hear a follow-up that an actual firearm was used in any of those events. Just saying. I didn't see an additional article. You think that they would have, as much as they blew up the BB gun occurrence in the news, they would have mentioned if an actual firearm was used. Fluke says that they believe it was a real firearm. No, they knew it was a BB gun the first time around. Like I said, they're saying the third time an actual firearm was used, but the first two times it was a BB gun. They knew that. Monkey says, remind me of the old guy in California pranking the neighbor for years with a slingshot. I remember that story. Tinfoil hat, CIA plant got caught. JJ says, are they counting individual BBs as rounds? I have no idea. And quite frankly, if I knew someone had 120 legitimate firearms and 250,000 rounds of ammunition in a bulletproof vest, or bullet resistant, there's no such thing as bulletproof. I don't care. I don't care as long as he's not doing something stupid. Maybe he's a hobbyist. Maybe he's a collector. Maybe he just really likes firearms. Maybe he goes to the range a lot. Maybe he's a professional target shooter. Maybe he goes to competitions. I don't care. I really don't. The guy down the street has 200 guns. I don't care. As long as he's not doing anything stupid that puts me and mine in jeopardy, I'm not worried about it. But yeah, that's a good question, JJ. Are they counting BBs? Or maybe it's 20. You know what? It could be 22s, because you can get like big boxes of 22 caliber rimfires, like 500 in a box, 1,000 in a box. Maybe he does a lot of competition shooting with 22s. I don't know. It says Kelly is also accused of hanging several political signs lined with razor blades on Tuesday in Ahwatukee, if I pronounce that right, an affluent suburb of Phoenix where most voters have chosen Democrats in recent elections. I wonder if that's true. That's dirty if it is. Authorities said the hand-painted signs were attached to palm trees and appeared to criticize Democrats and their presidential nominee, Harris. Kelly was being held on 3 felony counts of acts of terrorism. Really? Acts of terrorism. And 4 other counts related to shootings, according to police. And he's got a $500,000 cash bail set with a requirement for house arrest and an ankle monitor in the event he is able to raise that amount. He ain't coming up with $500,000. They set the bails really high on purpose so that you can't get out. His attorney said Kelly was a retired aerospace engineer who at one time had top security clearance and has no criminal record. That's actually very interesting. He's an aerospace engineer with top security clearance. That's interesting. And that brings up Monkey's point about a 3-letter asset that went off the deep end or got caught. Wow. The temp location was one of 18 Harris Field offices in Arizona where Democrats gathered to organize campaign efforts, and it was shut down after the shooting. Blah, blah, blah. Battleground state. Nobody gives a shit about that. Every state's a battleground state. There are no blue states and there are no red states. Okay? Like when they say Massachusetts is a blue state. No, this is a very big blue political city. That doesn't mean the whole state votes that way. But unfortunately, in Electoral College, those big cities have a lot of pull. So that's really interesting. I wonder how many of those were real firearms. I wonder how much of that was real ammunition. And it's really suspect to me. Aerospace engineer with top security clearances. I mean, that's like the makings of a movie. Hello again, Monkey. Welcome back. Hi, buddy. What's the matter? What's the matter with you? You came to steal the show again? You came to steal the show again? Is that what you're doing, buddy? Yeah, put your tinfoil hat on nice and tight for that one. That is really suspect. And it's really bizarre too. I don't know if it's true or not, but they said he was hanging signs with razor blades in them so that somebody, I guess, would get hurt if they tried to take those signs down. Hi. Hi, my friend. What are you trying to do? If those of you who can see, he's trying to get underneath my beard. He loves the beard for some reason. JJ says aerospace engineer almost sounds like this is from the movie Falling Down. Yeah, no kidding. He stole those guns though in Falling Down. He stole those guns from the survivalist store owner after the incident in when was it? I forget the format. But yeah, that was the survivalist store owner, right? So we get ready to jump into a Fox News article here, and you'll love this one. Talk about privileged. Talk about privilege. We're going to talk about Tiffany Henyard again. Tiffany Henyard, who's threatening to put people who she doesn't like in jail. Fox News article, and I can actually play this video clip for you. I believe I could play it without getting in trouble. We'll find out. Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard will seek to arrest political opponents as she faces eviction because they're trying to throw her out of office. They've had it. Tiffany Henyard, scandal-plagued Democratic mayor, no shit, of Dalton, Illinois, has suggested that she will seek to arrest political opponents, many of whom have raised concerns about her lavish spending of taxpayers' money. The embattled mayor, who is also facing eviction from her rented home, has made national headlines due to her alleged misuse of taxpayer funds, with former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot previously investigating her extravagant spending habits. And there she is. There she is. And I want to try to play this audio clip for you because of just how snooty and arrogant she sounds. Snooty and arrogant and ghetto as hell. I'm sorry. And there she is, some pictures of Henyard going off for everybody. Monkey says, wasn't the guns from the white supremacist seller in Falling Down? I've seen clips from the movie. Yeah, it was like a survivalist store, and he was like a supremacist. And the guy thought that he was doing the things that he was doing because he didn't like black people, and that wasn't the problem at all. And so he took the guy's weapons. But I'm going to try to run this clip for you here, and you can just listen to her tell her yourself.
Hey guys, come on in. It's your favorite super mayor, Tiffany A. Henyard, the people's mayor. I will be seeking arrests for individuals involved. I will be pressing charges. It's a lot. And that's just me telling you a little bit. Because all this point the finger to Tiffany or allow me, I'm over it. Now it's time for me to speak. As I say, truth speaks.
All she's done is run her mouth.
That's what time it is. So stay tuned in your turn. Not when it's time to run and you're promising me the world. No. Residents, hear me. You don't need that. You don't want that. It's time out for that. It's time now to make a stand with your supervisor, Tiffany A. Henyard, a.k.a. Super Mayor, Mayor of Dalton, the first female in both places.
I can do.
It's time. And I want women to stand up. Stop fighting each other. I've never seen this crab in the barrel mentality. I just haven't. But, like I said, if it can happen to me, it can happen to you. But what I want us to do is band together. Because it's unity amongst community for me. It always has been. You ain't never going to see a politician that do 40 events in a year who overworks themselves. You got to care if you're going to put in that much work. Who going to make events for the kids and the youth? Who going to make sure they always do something? But answer this, residents, please. Answer this one question. Why is it when supervisor, a.k.a. Mayor Henyard, do an event, y'all call it wasteful spending, or she doing this or doing that.
How did she get elected? Woman can barely talk. Oh, and ARN says the guns were from a Spanish gangbanger that wrecked. And Jericho says, who the hell elected her? She sounds nasty. That's some high school ass attitude. She does. She sounds like she's about 14 years old. She sounds like one of the girls that I would have worked with at JJA. 13, 14-year-old little snooty girl from like some housing project with a bad attitude. That's all attitude and just so childish. The mentality is so childish and so selfish. And again, hey, there's your diversity hire. She got voted in, one, because she's female, and two, because she's black. That's it. And everybody said, oh, yeah, we'll give her a chance. Well, there you go. There you go. The city of Dalton has gone from being 5 million in the black to, I believe, 5 million in the red now, and in serious debt that they know of. They could owe more. She spends a lot of the money on herself, and now she's threatening to, if you could catch that in her dialogue, threatening to have political opposition arrested for speaking out against her. Eric says she can't even speak the language. And maybe she's gay. That would be 3 and 1. I don't know about her orientation. I don't know if that's been mentioned at all. Monkey says, reminds me of King Playboy King Carol II of Romania when it came to spending extremely and spending very lavishly, spending like she's royalty while everyone else in the town suffered from excessive spending. JJ says, why this behavior is tolerated is beyond me. And for whatever reason in that town charter, anything that they vote for as in regards to trying to restrain her, remove her, anything like that, she has the ability to veto. So she stops them from throwing her out. And again, at that point, is when a governor would step forward, because a governor has the ability to suspend a mayor. He won't do it. He won't do it. Why? I suspect because she's black and female. And he doesn't want someone to try to throw the race card on her, or on him, rather. He doesn't want somebody to say it's because of her gender or skin color. Flukeman says, does the anti-Second Amendment know the difference? People who have guns wouldn't harm innocent people to those who don't have guns but would hurt people with a baseball bat. Who would you be afraid of? Yeah. And again, you all know how I feel about it. I mean, a firearm is a tool. It's only as dangerous as the person who has it. You can't cut that out. You can't. Come on. Oh, the fish is gone. Here, go get the fish. Stop pulling at my cables. You can't blame the tool for the actions of the person who wields it, which is what they do in America with firearms. Unfortunately, country says sounds like some of our other politicians. Dictator much? Yeah. And effectively, that's what's going on. She is being a dictator in Dalton. It's been a great ride. It's been almost 4 years. She is running for re-election. She is running for re-election. We'll see how well that goes. But you see what also diversity hires have done all across Illinois. Look at the condition Chicago's in. Chicago's never been that great anyways. But the last 2 mayors have really run it down. Really run it down. Both Lightfoot and Johnson. Actually worse than Lightfoot, which is surprising. Surprising. Brian says they get their guns illegally in most cases. Criminals, Brian is referring to. Yeah, a lot of times it's stolen or otherwise misappropriated. But she's been living high on the hog, spending a lot of the money on herself, and then has the nerve to sound like that. I don't know what her education is. I don't know what her education is. But, you know, you can be well educated and be a moron. Be an idiot. Be poorly articulated. I think she's poorly articulated. She sounds like a teenager. I'm not sure how old she is, actually. I'm not sure about her age. Let me see. Let me see if I can find it. She's 41. She's 41 years old, it says. Born in 1983. So, and she's been the mayor since 2001, and also serving as the Thornton Township supervisor since 2022. So she holds two jobs. She holds two jobs as the mayor and the supervisor. Mayor and the supervisor. I'll pull that up so that you can see what I'm reading. And there is the profile. Henyard, 41 years old, born in 1983. Tiffany Aisha Henyard, Dalton, Illinois. And she went to Robert Morris University, which is a private university with a main campus in Chicago, Illinois. I've never heard of Robert Morris. I don't know what her degree is either. But again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what her actual degree is, because you can have no degree and be intelligent or be able to present yourself well. And obviously you can have a degree and sound like a blithering idiot. And Country says if guns kill people, then spoons and forks make us fat and pencils misspell words. I know it. And All People is there. He says, why do these post-slavery era, post-migration era lineage like super mayor blacks in the U.S. Always bring their third world ghetto mindset with them? I don't know. That's a mouthful, All People. I don't know why she has to behave that way. You would think she would want to set a better example, but honestly, she really doesn't. And once again, just like I've been saying all week, there she is, member of the Democratic Party. Every time I come across an article like this, it's almost always a Democrat now. Almost always a Democrat. There's something about that party that just attracts much more corrupt, I guess. Much more corrupt individuals into politics than does the Republican Party. And again, I'm not saying that Republicans are exempt from being corrupt or from misappropriating funds or anything else. For some reason, the Democratic Party attracts that more. And you're seeing a lot of them getting exposed the last couple of years too. We're going to jump across the pond to the UK. Daily Mail article. More than half of prisoners that have been freed early this year are already back in jail. Gee, early release doesn't work very well, does it? More than half of the prisoners freed in the first 3 months of this year are already back behind bars, it has been revealed. Martin Jones, His Majesty's Chief of Probation, warned that laborers' plans to curb prison overcrowding would be undermined by a high level of recall. He told how every 100 inmates released in the first quarter of 2024, 56 have been brought back to prison for reoffending or breaching their license. That's more than 50%, buddy. So for every 100 inmates released early in 2024, 56 out of every 100 ended up getting rearrested. There you go. There you go. JJ says, well, regardless of what you think about her, she's evidently smart enough to game the system to her advantage. That's true. She's gotten over. Well, she's gotten over until it blows up in her face. Eventually, there's going to be charges. Whoever gets in after she's out that is able to properly assess all of the records and where the money went, it's going to come back on her and she's going to end up probably in jail sooner or later. Fluke Man said she believes that she's the character in Legally Blonde. Enter college as a bimbo, came out as a genius, top of her class. Don't tell her that because the truth hurts. The truth hurts. So back to Martin Jones, chief of probation here. He says he's speaking as more than 1,200 inmates who have been sentenced to more than 5 years in prison due to be freed early across England and Wales today. So on the day that this article came out 2 days ago, there's an additional 1,200 inmates on 5-year prison sentences that are due to be released early. That follows the early release of another 1,750 inmates last month under the new government scheme under which prisoners serve 40 rather than 50% of their sentences. So they don't even have to fill the whole sentence anyways. So if I got a 5-year sentence, I can expect to be there 2.5 years. But now under the new plan, I can only expect to be there 2 years instead of 5. So 40% of the sentence. That doesn't sound to me like it's going to work very well. Oh, no. That doesn't sound to me like that's going to work very well. And that is Martin Jones, His Majesty's Chief of Probation. That's not a very good photograph. That's not a very good photograph at all. All people said that she's 41 and acts 14. She does, again, sound like a teenager. It reminds me of some of the girls that I had to deal with when I was working for JJA. The way that they talked, the attitude, the snarky remarks, all of that. I'm waiting for her to start snapping her gum and popping her neck there. Incredible. Anyway, if you're in the UK under the current administration, the Labourers Party, Labourers Plan, you can expect to only serve 40% of any sentence that is handed down by the UK judicial system. In case you were planning anything, that doesn't sound to me like any kind. What kind of reform do they have? And as he pointed out, 56% of the people they release end up back in jail. How is that sustainable? How is that sustainable? I wonder how much of Britain's tax dollars go into their prison system. That doesn't seem sustainable to me at all. That's incredible. That is incredible. Where's the incentive? The incentive to stay out of jail. You don't want to go to jail. Nobody wants to be in jail. There are some people who like it, I guess. Like that one guy in Breaking Bad that Saul set up. He was like, oh no, he likes it in jail. He wants to get arrested. Trust me. He'll take the rap for you. There's always that guy, sure. But, you know, a softball system like that, that's not helping to make criminals feel like, okay, I've got to be careful at least. I don't want to end up going to jail for 5 or 10 years. And where is the reform? The justice system doesn't really work anyways. I mean, I could go on and on and on. It is not a biblical system of justice by any means. Someone getting arrested and going to jail does not make up for anything that they've done. Paying a fine to the system does not help anyone who has been wronged or hurt by a criminal. Sitting in jail does not help anyone who's been harmed or hurt or ripped off by a criminal. It does nothing for them. Nothing. It's a system that's designed to feed into itself and support itself, and that's where you get the concept of a prison industrial complex. It's designed to eat tax money, and it's disguised as justice. It's disguised as justice. Oh, you got justice. He's going to jail. No, you've taken a public nuisance or a public menace, if they're a particularly violent person, and you've turned them into a public burden by making my tax dollars pay for him to sit around all day. Granted, again, prison's not a great environment, but I'm paying for him to be there. Nothing that he's done has been fixed or corrected or amended or made up for. And if he is a particularly dangerous person, well, that's why they used to have the death penalty, to keep a public menace from becoming a public burden as well. And I could go on and on. That's me on the soapbox. While we're still in the UK, another Daily Mail, EY fires dozens of staff for cheating on training sessions. I got a kick out of this one because I know a lot of people do this. I've seen this done. It says EY has fired dozens of staff for cheating on professional training courses. The British accounting company dismissed staff in the UK last week following an investigation into their conduct during the EY Ignite Learning Week in May. Staff members were accused of having multiple Zoom sessions open on different screens, which Ernst & Young deemed an ethical breach. The course counted towards professional educational credits that employees need to collect over the year. Employees told the Financial Times they had not been aware of the rules and were only hoping to hear new ideas by making the most of multiple sessions. It came as the company announced workforce cuts affecting 2,450 employees for the first time in 14 years. That's hilarious. And I've seen this done before. Basically, what they're suggesting is that, because, the last time I had to do anything like that was when I was working for mental health. And you have to sit in those video meetings. And I've had to do many of them because you have to take all these courses and classes and get all these certifications. And they had to do the same thing. But what they did was they set it up so that they were in multiple meetings at once on different calls on their computer. They might have 5 or 6 of them open, which means that really they're not paying attention to any of them. You barely could pay attention to one without falling asleep. I used to have a real hard time, man. I wanted to take a nap listening to those people drone on and on. Half of it doesn't even apply to what the hell I'm doing anyway. So they open a whole bunch at once and just let the stuff play and claim credit for it, and they got caught. And then they're going to sit there and say, oh, I didn't know I couldn't open more at once. You can't pay attention to like 6 Zoom calls at the same time. Who are you fooling? Raccoon says it costs California taxpayers $85,000 a year to take care of Charles Manson in prison. Or it cost, yeah. There you go. He should have been executed. They knew he was guilty. And that's another aspect, and I talk about that a lot, because there's a lot of people sitting in jail with extended time they don't deserve or who even are innocent. I've read many of those articles. If you are 100% sure dealing with something like that, like Charles Manson, you knew he was involved. That guy, you put him on death row. Flukeman says UK government is considering reparations for the transatlantic slave trade. Oh my God. But did they even think about non-white ancestors had nothing to do with it? It'll come out of their taxes too. Yeah. So they're made to pay for something that they're not even remotely responsible for. Not even remotely responsible for. Held accountable for something that they never did to pay people that never suffered under the system. Never suffered under that system. Isn't that amazing? And that's your tax dollars at work, folks. Tax dollars at work. And this is what I'm talking about right here. This is kind of an example, this next one here about Walmart. One more article here to round off the day. I thought this was very interesting because there's a lot of questions here. Associated Press agrees to pay $7.5 million to settle California lawsuit over disposal of hazardous waste. Okay, think about that before even reading the article. They violated the laws, Environmental Protection Agency, or whatever the hell the laws are, about the improper disposal of chemicals. So those chemicals, they're already sitting wherever they are, and they're not going to be moved. And in order to make up for that, they're paying a fine that goes to the state government. How's that helping the environment or protecting anyone? For them to pay a fine to the government, and then the stuff they dumped, it's going to stay right there because they're talking about an improper use of landfill. No one's going to dig that landfill up. So there it is. It says $1.5 million to settle a lawsuit filed by California officials that alleged the retail giant illegally dumped batteries, aerosol cans of insect killer, toxic cleaning supplies, electronic waste, latex paints, and other hazardous waste in municipal landfills throughout the state. So, yeah, that happened. California Attorney General Rob Bonta announced the settlement Tuesday, saying the company will also be required to hire an independent third-party auditor to conduct 3 waste audits each year at its facilities throughout California during the next 4 years. And, this is an article I can get back to tomorrow if we run long. I guarantee you it's not just the Walmarts in San Francisco. All Walmarts are doing this all across the country. They illegally disposed of batteries, aerosol cans, paint, electronic devices, whatever, and it went to landfills. It's not going to be recovered from the landfills. No extra measures are going to be taken at those landfills to make them safe. They pay really a slap on the wrist fine. $7.5 million for Walmart is a drop in the bucket to the state. And what's the state going to do with that money? Anything? Anything useful at all? Anyone want to hazard a guess? They're not going to do a damn thing with that money. It'll get wasted somewhere, I'm sure, but it won't be to clean up the environment. And then Walmart has to have an inspector come 3 times a year and do what? Do what to make sure that their employees aren't throwing aerosol cans in the garbage? Where's the justice? It's an illusion of justice. But yeah, like I said, I'll have to get back to that one because we're getting close to time. Oh, and I needed to talk about the cats too. I forgot all about it because the meeting that was supposed to take place yesterday didn't happen. They called and canceled because they said they were held up, and so they want to put me off until Friday. So if I remember, I'll bring that up tomorrow because the longer this takes, the greater the chance is one of the females I got back there ends up pregnant, and then I end up with 50 cats instead of 18. Tuck says $7 million for dog parks and LGB crosswalks. No kidding. No kidding. But with that, here we are at the top of the hour again. You're listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and you can find the live portion Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Coffee Talk and Prepper University, at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University on YouTube. So please do find me there. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, and you can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. So, hey, thank you everybody for joining us here today. As always, hope you got something out of the